Warhammer 40,000 and Gladius Relics of War is coming on its second year in July, a whole 1 month from now. And for many of you, you probably picked the game up during the Skulls for Skulls Throne sale or any of the other sales that are going to be going on this year with the Steam Summer Sale, so on and so forth. Well, in addition to the game, there are a ton of DLCs. In fact, there are 3 downloadable races and 3 DLC packs that you can pick up. In this video, I want to go over what those DLC packs are, what units are included, and really my kind of ranking for each one as far as ones you absolutely should pick up as fast as you can, and ones you can really just kind of wait until they go on sale. This video was kind of created on the behest of Slytherin Games. They were saying, hey, we had a lot of really great success with the Skulls for Skulls Throne sale. Would you mind releasing a video that covers the DLCs? They like the coverage we've done so far. And as a result, they've given me 10 keys to give away that I will be giving away on my 80,000 subscriber celebration this Sunday. So if you want to watch that stream, I'm going to be playing Gladius Relics of War and giving away 10 keys to the game. You can see that Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in this video today, we're just going to quickly go through all 6 of the DLCs. We're going to start with the campaign pack, or I guess the race DLCs first in the Tyranids, Tau, as well as Chaos Space Marines. And then we're going to talk about the 3 kind of unit expansions with the reinforcement, fortification, and assault packs. And I'll kind of rate them based off of which ones I think are the best, which ones I think you should pick up first, and so on and so forth. So let's jump into our race packs first. And the first additional race to be added to the game was the Tyranids. And I really think that if you've been playing Gladius Relics of War for some time now, the Tyranids are the best one to really kind of break the normal formula of what you're used to. For one, there's no energy in the Tyranid resource pool. They use influence to maintain buildings instead. In addition, their food and ore is boiled down to one resource, biomass. And this is the same thing that's used in the lore too, so it's kind of got that really cool fluff flavoring. In addition, they also have a research system that's very interesting. So whenever you kill someone in front of a Malanthrope, any other unit, or your unit kills something else, it generates research points for you. So you can use this to kind of further your research pool, different than normal, right? Usually you have to build a building and produce those through there, or you happen to use a hex that increases your research pool generation. So with the Tyranids, you really kind of break out of that standard template that you've had so far in your playthrough of Gladius. In addition, you get a lot of really cool things like poison weapons and acid blood, but you also have a kind of a hindering factor with you in instinctive behavior. Now, in the tabletop version of Tyranids and Warhammer 40,000, they have these creatures called synapse creatures, and these creatures essentially extend their leadership to the more I guess just primordial portions of the hive, the ones that are just bound to instinctive behavior if they're not given an actual command from a synapse creature. And the same here can be said for Gladius. So while any unit is in range of a synapse creature and has that synapse link, they are immune to morale effects. So it's kind of got a really interesting flavor to it. This is a very hard to deal with, I guess you could say, campaign pack or race pack, in that it's a different approach to the game. You're not going to play this in the same way you've been playing your previous 10, 20, 30, 40, hundreds of hours of Gladius. This is going to be a very different way of playing. In addition to, you have a race that's focused on a lot of city expansion and less so much on the city sizes. So you're going to have more cities and less complex ones. So if you're really looking for a campaign pack that is going to be for you to really break out of that mold, I definitely think the Tyranids are a strong contender. And they're at only $15. If you wait until it's on sale, it'll be easier to pick up. So each and every one of these DLCs, I'm going to have a link in the description below that you can purchase through Fanatical. Fanatical will just give you a Steam key. They are a reseller, they are not a marketplace. So if you want a quick, easy way to both support the channel and pick up the DLC, you can go ahead and click the Fanatical links in the description. But I think that even though I'm going to talk about all 3 of the race packs, I think each one of them is a compulsory buy. They add so much value to the game because they're expanding the way you can even play it by adding a whole different facet of it. I think that some of the DLC units you can hold off on, but pretty much all 3 of these race packs I'm going to talk about, I think they're equal level of importance to the game. If you don't want to play the Tyranids, then just simply don't buy them. But I definitely think that each one of them is a very strong purchase, because each one was very well done, adds its own character, and there's no weak race pack amongst the three. So while I am going to talk about all three, I think I put them all at the top of the list of 3 DLCs you should buy for the game immediately. The next downloadable race is the Chaos Space Marines, the second DLC race to be added. Now, if you do want a further expansion upon how these races work, what all their units look like, I'm going to link in the upper right corner my race guide or faction guide video, so you can get an idea of all the different factions of the game. Now, the Chaos Space Marine DLC is also a really amazing one, and I actually think of the DLC races, it's my personal favorite because I really enjoy Chaos Space Marines. And with Chaos Space Marines, you get a really interesting mechanic wherein every time they kill an enemy unit, they actually kind of earn a point where they can further upgrade or traverse down a path of a specific one of the ruinous powers. They have a very small chance to even be, I guess, converted or ascended up to a full Demon Prince. So I know in my personal playthrough of the Chaos Space Marines, I was able to do some damage with a cultist. I killed a unit of Crude Hounds, and then the unit exploded into a Demon Prince. So there's a lot of really cool things going for the Chaos Space Marines in a subtle way that is different than the Space Marines. I think the Space Marines, they have a lot of access to a lot of tanks and a lot of other things, and the Chaos Space Marines don't really have that full range of tanks, not even until this most recent DLC pack, the Assault Pack, which actually added the Chaos Land Raider. But you get a lot of really cool demon units, you get a lot of really cool hero units from the Chaos Space Marines too. Like the Demon Prince, like I mentioned earlier, is probably one of the strongest hero units because it can be upgraded in so many different ways, and it has such a tanky stat line where it can really like soak up a lot of damage, and at the same time, it itself is buffing up units around you. So you have a lot of really cool units with the Chaos Space Marines. They play thematically very similar to the Space Marines as far as their base building goes, their approach to the game, but with cultists being a very cheap unit to get access to with the Chaos Space Marines, they can really try to ramp up their favor system of killing units and getting more and more boons, chaotic ruinous power boons from that system too. So I really like the Chaos Space Marine faction or race pack or DLC pack, and I think that it honestly is probably my favorite one for the game so far. But there is one more pack to be talked about, and that is the Tau. Now, the Tau play very similar to the way they do in tabletop, which I actually kind of found cool. They kind of take the overwhelming numbers that you get with the Imperial Guard, but they then color in a lot of really cool mechanics from some of the drone units and some of the other units in the Tau roster. And you also get a lot of access to really cool Gundams. I mean mech units with their crisis suits, their broadside suits. So what I really like about the Tau DLC, the Tau faction, is that you do have a very diverse army, and you can focus to heavily go into a lot of the not the broadside suits, but a lot of the crisis suits and all the other suits of the Tau Empire, or you can go heavily into an infantry-based squad, or you can use some of the Kroot units that you get too. So I like that the Tau have this immense diversity, and you also get access to all of the very many variations of drones that you get in 8th edition, well, soon to be 9th edition Warhammer 40,000. And in fact, those drone units are a pretty recent evolution to the Tau army list in the more recent editions. In their first iteration, they really only had like 1 or 2, where it was like a gun drone and a shield drone. So now you get all these different varieties that can actually boost the Tau units around them. And then you can use the Ethereal cast to help boost your troops. You get access to the commanders to help boost your troops and actually do a ton of damage. So I like the Chaos Space Marines because they're one of my favorite factions in Warhammer 40k, but I think as far as flavor of just a generic style faction, as far as, hey, this is not going to really change up the way that you play 40k Gladius, Tau are definitely up there for me. They're really an amazing and original interpretation of them for 40k Gladius. Now, we have talked about the 3 faction DLC packs, but it is worth noting that there is a rumored 4th one on the horizon with Eldar. It's really the only race that hasn't been fully gotten a fleshing out in the setting yet. I mean, we've got Imperial Guard, Tyranid, Tau, Necrons, Chaos Space Marines, and Space Marines. So really, making that jump to Eldar and maybe even Dark Eldar in the far future, we'll start to see that 4th and maybe even a 5th DLC pack. And I know that the future of Gladius is really bound to the continued sales. They don't really do a lot of massive discounts, and they have these $15 faction packs because it really helps them out because they're a small development team, and it helps them to kind of pretty much springboard or fund the next faction pack. So now that we've talked about those faction packs, let's jump into our 3 unit packs. And I'm going to do those based on my order of preference, or the ones I think you should get first versus the one I think you should get last. And we're going to jump into our first one then with the Assault Pack. So the Assault Pack is the most recent unit DLC pack. And through this little foray, I'm going to be using the game app to show off these units. And with it, we get a unit for every single DLC. So these unit packs have come out in between the major DLC faction packs. So right now you can see 2, 4, 6, 7 new units being added. And they really follow one theme: fast attack, heavy hitting, or filling up some of the gaps in the enemy army. What's really nice about Slytherin is that they really listen to the community and things that, hey, you know, this is a huge deficit in this army, we need something like this. Or they'll add something across the board that all armies can take advantage of. And that's something I really enjoy about the development team and their constant communication with the community. So we can see here that the Chaos get the Chaos Land Raider that I was talking about earlier. It's going to be able to punch a lot of holes in things. It's got a lot of tank ability here, and of course it is a transport, so it can carry things inside of it. Another transport to be added into the game is also the Chimera. This is going to be added to the Astra Militarum, or the Imperial Guard, if you know your the name that they should be called. Another transport to be added, and this one's a little bit lower on the tech scale. It's not the big daddy that the Land Raider is, but it's still going to be a really nice way to get a lot of Imperial Guard troops across the field quickly. Now, moving over to another unit that is also a transport is the Razorback. Now, this is different than a Rhino in that it has a reduced capacity for holding units, but it has an increased amount of damage it can do with its twin-linked heavy bolter. And if you ever want to spawn these things into the game, press Control-D. That'll bring up this really cool debug menu, and you can just spawn things right into the game. It's a really cool, handy tool that allows you to kind of get an idea of what the game can really do with all these units. Now, the Necrons don't get a vehicle. In fact, they're one of the only units on this list that doesn't get a vehicle, or at least a monstrous creature. And it's the Flayed ones. And the Flayed ones, though, are still extremely fast. If I click Move right here, and we zoom out, you can see that they have a really far move. For the Necrons, that's pretty huge. So you can use these guys to get a little bit more of a fast attack approach for the army while the army is somewhat pretty ponderous and slow. Here they get this really cool little bitty reanimation protocols, as we all know, and they also get Flayer Claws directly out of their 8th edition rules. Now, moving over, we get this Scythe Hero Duel, or, man, I just butchered that one, but this massive Tyranid creature is going to be just a beast on the battlefield. And the nice thing, too, about Tyranids is that after a certain point, you just get nothing but big monsters added to your game. Ones that are not even in the 8th edition codex, but they're more in the Forge world and expanded portions of the game. So it's a really, really cool little addition here. You get the Acid Blood that we talked about earlier. Strike down, smash, move through cover, monstrous creature, if you couldn't guess that. A gargantuan creature, again, if you couldn't guess that. And Feel No Pain, which is nice for a damage reduction. And then also Fearless. So this thing is really got a long move too, as you can see. It's huge. You can really move across the battlefield fast, which is, like I said, the flavor of the Assault Pack. Now, the difference here, of course, is that it's not a transport. It's a single large entity unit. The only thing that's kind of like that is your Tidewall gun rig, but this thing actually is a transport unit for the Tau. It's got a nice little skimming ability too, so it can open top, sorry, there, skimmer, so it can actually move over the top of terrain a little bit easier. It's not hindered by things like other things are, and like this little ditty, it's a fortification, so it has a lot more armor going for it than the rest of our repertoire here. Then lastly, we get the War Bikers added in for the Orcs fast attack little bike unit that really gives an additional amount of increased again, move ability. Press move right here. I can see their really large move radius here. So the Assault Pack is, again, the most recent DLC to be added to the game. And I think that outside of the faction packs, the race packs that were added, it's probably one of the most important because it adds one for every single army, which is really nice. The rest of them are basically kind of, I guess you could say, dated depending upon which portion of the DLC you actually have from the factions. So if you have the Tau, you're not going to get any new units with the next two DLCs we're going to talk about. So keep that in mind when you're taking a look at this, but I definitely think that the Assault Pack is worth it if you are purchasing the DLCs and it is on sale. I would definitely pick up the Faction Packs and then the Assault Pack at the bare minimum. Let's jump on over to the second most recent DLC. The next DLC pack is the Fortification Pack. Now, this came out alongside the Chaos Space Marine, or shortly after the Chaos Space Marine Faction Pack. So this will give you access to a Tyranid as well as a Chaos Space Marine unit. But let's go through this real quick here. So we get 6 new units added, and 4 of the 6 are fortifications, or at least not moving units like the other 2. So we'll talk about the other 2 first. So we get the Big Mech, which is an interesting unit because it's not your typical unit as far as being like, okay, there's not multiple units here, there's just simply this big daddy. And he has a lot of really cool utility abilities. He gets Mech Tools, which allows him to restore the hit points of allied vehicles. Here we go, which boosts the movement speed. Then he gets Custom Force Field, which is going to be a repeating motif across all 6 of these, is some ability to give a 33% range and vulnerable damage reduction. So he's got those things going for him. But he also has the ability to increase his own accuracy if he stays still. He can create Orcoid Fungus, morale loss penalties, helps out with those, Furious Charge. He can also get Scavengers, or he has Scavenger, so when he kills an enemy, it will generate ore for him, which is nice as well. So if you're playing a lot of orcs, definitely get that Big Mech. But not Big Mech, the difference there. You also get the Biovores, which are a really, really cool unit because it adds essentially long-range artillery for the most part for Tyranids. That's always what their main focus was supposed to be. But they can jump from Trigon Broodhive to another Broodhive using their Subterranean Assault ability. They have Override Instinctive Behavior, allowing them to kind of shut down that instinctive behavior we were talking about with the Synaptic Link. And they also can create those Spore Bursts that allows them to shoot little Spore Mines everywhere. So this unit is, again, more of a ranged artillery-style unit, but it also is mobile, so it can get around the battlefield, which is quite nice. Now, the other 4, though, are not the same situation. You get the Aquila Macro Cannon, which is for the Space Marines, and this is just essentially just a real heavy-duty bunker. It's a transport, so it's going to be able to hold people inside of it. It's a fortification, and then it just has, and they shall know no fear, reducing morale loss. But look at that thing, Aquila Macro Cannon, which has a range of 5 and AP of 10. It just does a smoldering amount of damage, and it has a nice 96 health attached to it with 11 armor. So this is really just your big daddy bunker that's going to hold your men and allow you to hold the line, essentially. Moving over to the Necrons, though, we get the Gauze Pylon. Now, this thing's interesting because it's got 2 little abilities here. Custom Force Field, which we talked about, gives you that 33% range and vulnerable damage reductions. Things are going to have that here. But it also gets Phase Shift Generator, increases the invulnerable damage reduction again. So it stacks up to be really helpful when you use this generator. It increases it and helps that massive 66% invulnerable damage reduction. I might have gotten that a little wrong, but essentially this thing is really going to help you increase your invulnerable damage reduction. It does have an ability here with a Gauze Annihilator that does more damage than the Macro Cannon at 100 armor penetration and 24 damage with a range of 4. Also, it's a destroyer weapon, so it increases the damage, and Skyfire increases accuracy against flyers. So you can see that this thing is a very heavy-duty, serious fortification here. Now, the Necrolith Crown, which is also even recently added to 8th edition, is for Chaos, and it has 2 abilities, one offensive and one defensive. You get Loathsome Aura, which is going to increase that invulnerable damage reduction for all Chaos allied units around this thing by 1 tile. But then the other one here is Malevolent Locus, which reduces the hit points. So it damages a non-Chaos Psyker in range each turn. So within 3 tiles, it'll do damage to anyone that is in range, allowing it to kind of help pick off Primaris Psykers or any of the Space Marine Librarians, so on and so forth. But you also get this too, Lashing Warp Energies, anything in a range of 2, it can do a little bit of damage too. Not a lot, but it does have an ability to do some damage. Then our last one here is the Void Shield Generator for the Astra Militarum, and this is just going to be simply giving you a nice little bonus to your range and vulnerable damage reduction again. So you can see how the Fortification Pack doesn't really add a ton of new units to the game, but I still find this one to be pretty important because it adds all these nice fortifications or little tiny holes that are patched up in the overall scope of each army. So I do really find this to be very nice because the Space Marines don't expand out very crazy. They typically have 1, if not 2 cities, and in the very late game, maybe a third if they can squeeze it in. So the nice thing too about the Aquila Cannon is it gives you an ability to have a nice staying point. Or if you compare the Biovores, when you have the ability to spread around the map quickly, these guys can move from position to position fast. Also, the big mech gives you a lot of abilities to heal the massive large vehicle creatures that you get in the Orc army. So there's a lot of really cool kit abilities for a lot of the Fortification Pack units that were added. And I think this is a really solid one, but I think it can wait just a little bit to go on sale. It's not that expensive to begin with, but I think that the Assault Pack or any of the faction packs are a little bit more worth it. Let's jump over to our last and the oldest of the DLC unit packs. Our next and last DLC pack to talk about is the Reinforcement Pack. Now, I'll just be honest right out the gate here. I think that this one can wait until absolute last to purchase. Again, it's not very expensive. Wait for it to go on sale, but the problem is that it only adds units to the 4 original factions with a 5th neutral unit in the Neophyte hybrids. So it's not as crucial of a DLC pack in my opinion. But it does add some nice elite units to every single one of the original 4 factions. The first being Tempestus Scions, which gives you a nice Imperial Guard elite unit. Way back in the earlier editions, these guys were called Kasserkins. They still kind of retain that name if you do Tempestus Scions of Cadia, but still. These guys have a little bit more staying power at 6 armor and 14 health, and they have their 7 hot shot las guns, which have a moderate amount of AP. There's a little bit better las guns for the most part. So if you're playing Imperial Guard, you want a more elite version of Imperial Guardsmen, the Tempestus Scions with that jump up. Now next, we have the Flash Gits. Now these guys are a little bit heavier. They're not quite knobs, but they do have quite a cool amount of abilities here. They get Here We Go to increase their movement speed here. They've got Git Finder, so if they stay still, again, they can increase their range accuracy. Might Makes Right, which increases influence per combat from upkeep factor. They also get Scavenger, again, to help with that ore production, but a little bit more of a range unit. They don't have the best staying power with only 2 armor. They do have a nice amount of health though at 30. Keep in mind though that you're looking at 6 units in this, 6 models in this unit versus say this one, which has got a 2, 4, 6, 7 model. So, by the way, this is 2, 4, 5 models, not 6. But my point here is that you're dealing with less models, but you still have a nice high HP pool, which is quite nice here. Moving over though, we also have the Immortals, which are again more of a heavy weapons platform, almost like the Devastator for the Space Marines. These guys are going to bring these heavy gauze cannons to the table here, Tesla Carbine as they are called, which is going to help them do not a lot of AP damage, but they can do quite a bit of damage. And they also get Necrodermis Repair, which allows them to heal their own hit, get some hit point healing because, well, they are Necrons. Our next one over on the right is our Land Raider, which is probably the biggest badass of this whole group. It adds a very strong unit to the Space Marine roster. So now you've got Rhinos, you've got Razorbacks if you purchase the Assault Pack, you have got Predators, and now you've got Land Raiders. So you get access to a wide range of mechanized units with the Space Marines, and I feel like the Land Raider has always been that cherry on top of like the strongest, best mechanized unit in the Space Marine roster. And the last one here is a neutral unit with the Neophyte hybrids. So if you're really stoked on the Reinforcement Pack and you really like a lot of these units and these are the primary factions you play, then by all means jump to that one first. I'm not saying that my recommendations are the way you should absolutely play the game. I'm just saying that, hey, you know, from my experience, these are the ones that you maybe get a little bit more bang for your buck because you get more units with them for the same amount of money. So that's my personal opinion here. But with that, it brings our video here to a close. I hope this gave you a really good idea of some of the DLC packs that you can really take advantage of with Gladius, Relics of War. And the big thing to remember here is that these DLC packs go towards a very small development team, and that's really why I do a lot of these videos when they ask me to, because I really want to support this really awesome, very community embedded development process and team. These guys are always on the forums, they're always on the Reddits, they're looking at what people say, and they make the cool changes that people want. So hopefully these DLC packs will continue to fund future expansions to the factions and armies of the game. I'm really excited for a possible expansion of Eldar and or Dark Eldar. I remember I had asked them like, hey, are Eldar coming? And I got kind of a cheeky response. So hopefully that's kind of like an indication of things to come. But as always, guys, you can find each one of these DLC packs in the description below with a relevant link to my Fanatical page that'll allow you to purchase them. I will get a small commission on them, and you will simply get a Steam key that you can redeem and download immediately. So if you want to support the channel, by all means go through that. Any sales that go on Steam should be reflected on Fanatical, so whenever you're watching this, if there is a sale going, it should hopefully be there. If not, simply leave me a comment and I can see if I can do something to help you out with that. But again, taking a look at all these DLC packs, there's no right way to go about this. I still think that the faction packs are the best ones, and the unit packs, I just pretty much look at the value per money spent, and I really look at the assault pack as the best. But like I said, if you're primarily playing the Necrons, get the reinforcement pack, because the Immortals are awesome. So really look at each one of these packs, and hopefully this gives you an idea of exactly what you're getting in the pack to make a decision on what you want to purchase. And with so many people having now purchased the game after the Skulls for Skulls Throne sale and with the Steam Summer Sale on the horizon, this should hopefully just give you that right amount of information to make the jumps that you need. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know about maybe your opinion on some of the DLCs and which ones you find most important, or hey, this is a must. This fortification is absolutely a must if you're playing this faction, so on and so forth. I would really like to get as much information out there for newer players so they can see from people that have a lot of time into the game what they like the most. I personally don't have a ton of time. I've only played about 60-70 hours of the game, but I know a lot of you have hundreds of hours plugged into it. And my last note here before closing our video down is a huge shout out and thank you to Locknot for helping me out with some of the aspects of this video. And he definitely wanted to make sure that people are aware of the newly launched workshop here for Gladius. You get a lot of really amazing mods. Too Many Voices, which adds tons more. It's a voice mod for the game. Locknot's expanded setup that helps you really kind of cater the first portions of the game in a more fine-tuned way. There are so many additional mods that have been added with the workshop, and that always increases the longevity of a game. So please, 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 guys, do go and check out those mods. I've linked them in the description so you can take a look at them and see if you want to put them into your game. But as always, like I always say, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you do subscribe, please go ahead and smack that little bell button. I am going to be doing a 10-key giveaway for Gladius on Sunday, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So by clicking that bell, it will allow you to get notifications of when I'm hosting those streams, and all the videos that I release in the coming weeks, months, years, whatever it is. But as always, have a good one, and take care.